Killer create vibes now.
Welcome to the premiere episode of the Get a Love Like Mine podcast. I am Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. We hope that this podcast and our testimony will give you a fresh perspective and lead you closer to God. Every episode will be talking about relationships and parenting, and we always have a segment at the end where you can email us a question to ask for advice. The segment is called Ask the Amoses. Our email address is getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com. I'll be sure to put it in the description below. So we can just go ahead and get into the topics.
Today's topic, we're going to focus on new marriages. And if you have been married only a few years, it's early in your marriage, or if you're engaged in contemplating getting married, there will probably be some things here that'll give you things to think about or prepare for to help your marriage succeed. Because we're here to try to help. We're never going to talk down on marriage because we believe in marriage and we want to see you make it. So, that being said, our first topic is understanding that the two of you have joined in unity to become one. I believe in Mark chapter 10 it says that the two shall become one. So always remember or envision your relationship as we're not two people anymore. God sees us as one. So God's not going to bless one and punish the other. And so if you carry yourself like that, the two of you can have a stronger bond, number one. Also, that's the true meaning of love, when the two of you become one. And you can use that to look at your spouse or your mate in that way. Like no one is going to keep secrets from themselves, or no one's going to do things behind their own back. So I have to be open and honest with my spouse, so that we can always grow closer. Learning your spouse it's a full-time job. It's going to last forever. You're going to be constantly learning new things about them. They're going to be constantly learning new things about you. As you get older, you're going to learn new things about yourself. So it's almost impossible for your spouse to know everything about you, but you need to have the mindset of, I'm still trying to learn this person, so that I can be who I need to be to this person. So just always remember that God sees the two of you as one person now.
I'll add to that and say that I see a lot of younger couples who almost are in competition with one another, and this is not competition. You guys are on the same team. You are the same player. I won't even say you're on the same team. You are one player. And as my husband said, in the eyes of God, you are one. In the eyes of the law, you are one. So you need to kind of adopt that mindset when you're considering marriage, when you're early on in your marriage. You have to learn to let yourself go and pick up the other one's cross. I guess that's a good way to put it. Because you guys are one. If your husband is having a problem, that problem is going to affect you. It's going to affect the way he loves you. It's going to affect the way he treats you. It's going to affect the way he communicates with you. So if you guys cannot communicate with each other as one, it's just going to be a downhill spiral. You need to see each other as one couple as one person and not compete with each other. If my husband wins, I don't even know what to say. If he wins on a football board and he wins $1,000, I'm not even looking at it like, oh, he need to give me some money. I'm looking at it like, oh, we won $1,000. We are one. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you're thinking about marriage and when you're new to your marriage. You have to kind of put your old self aside, put that part down, and now you're one with your spouse.
Also, there's a lot of things to consider in just on this topic alone. You wouldn't, like you say, win money and hide it from yourself. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the mindset you need to have when you get married. Like, this needs to be the closest bond that you will have with anybody on this earth, is because God sees you as one. Now, you may raise kids or whatever, and kids are important, especially as smaller, that there's a lot of things kids can't do for themselves. That's understandable. But you're not one with that kid. In the Bible, you're only one with this person, so nothing should ever come between this. Yeah, kids need attention and a lot of work and all that other good stuff. But try to remember these things. And really, this is what dating before marriage is all about. Learn enough about this person to understand, or, figure out how this person deals with money, deals with anger, deals with rejection, deals with all types of things. You need to know these things before you can decide, okay, can I be one with this person? By the way they think. So, which kind of leads me into my next topic of, you need to be able to adjust to being one as far as going out. I see a lot of relationships where, and a lot of times it's the guys, but it's not exclusive. Women do it too. That they still want to do single things once you're married, and it puts a strain on the marriage. And then a lot of times, okay, we'll use going out either to the club or hanging out with the fellas. Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's going to have a strain on your relationship if you don't keep it in perspective. Sometimes that wife needs some alone time, so she may be glad you're going. But other times you need to realize that, okay, I'm married, and hanging out or running the streets with my single friends is going to cause some doubt or some disappointment with that wife, and she may not know how to communicate that to you in a way that you'll accept it. Like, I've seen guys feel like, oh, she's trying to control me. I'm just going to go. I don't even have nowhere to go, but just to prove a point to her, I'm going to go anyway and just ride around in my car and then come back like I really went somewhere. Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with that is that mentality doesn't view us as one. Right there you can see there's two people. There's this person at home that feels like, you're in the streets too much, and I might not need you here to paint the walls, so to speak, or to go cook dinner. Maybe I just want to spend time with you. And here you are, person number two. Oh, well, one of my best friends told me, oh, she's going to try to control you. Just watch. So, we mentioned in the previous episode, keeping friends out of your business, and there are going to be folk on the outside that are close to you, so to speak, that really aren't cheering with the pom-poms for your relationship to win, especially if they've been in failed relationships, or they're not married, or they had a marriage that didn't work, and they're looking at you like, yeah, yours isn't going to work either, but they may not say that to you. But, it's kind of what they're hoping, so they can say, well, you're just like me. Yeah, my wife's such and such and such, and your wife probably gonna do that too.
Well, what I'll add to that is that you cannot be married and single too. I don't know if we mentioned this. I know we mentioned that we're a blended family. This is both of our second marriage. In my first marriage, the pastor of the church who married us, that's what he said. He said, you can't be married and single too. And those are words to live by when you're in a marriage. You cannot live solely for yourself. I'm not saying that you have to be miserable. I'm saying all of your decisions have to at least consider your spouse. You can't just say, oh, I want to go out to eat. And then you go out to eat. And then you come home and your spouse is sitting there starving. And you got the toothpick picking your teeth because you just came back from a 5-course meal. Like, that's not considerate of your spouse. You're thinking as a single person. You're not thinking as a married person. And just to go back to what you were saying about going to the club, a lot of times there's like a battle going on in a relationship, especially when you have been a part of a group, a clique, whatever you want to call it, of guys or girls, and you guys are constantly hanging out. That's what single people do. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you get into a relationship that's going to turn into marriage, you have to think about what it is you're actually going out for. Are you only going out with your boys or with your girls just to prove to them that this person is not changing you, that this person is not controlling you, that this person didn't tell you? I mean, like, he may have said, I don't want you to go to the club, and then you're only going because you're trying to prove to your girls that you can do what you want to do. That's not a mindset of we are one. That's a mindset of I'm single and I can do what I want to do. Because when you're married, you can't just do what you want to do. I'm not saying this in a bad way. If you want to go to the club, you can go with your spouse. Like, there's no reason why you can't, if that's the type of thing you guys like to do. But if he doesn't like to go and you do, that's going to be something you're going to have to pick your battles when it comes to that. You're going to have to decide, am I more interested in making sure my friends know that I'm running this, or am I more interested in having peace and calm in my household? Because me personally, I'm more interested in the peace and calm in my household. So just remember, you cannot be married and single at the same time.
Also consider this. You go to the club, most people there, only there for a handful of reasons. They're there to meet people, hang out and drink or whatever, I don't know. But the main thing
listen to music.
Listen to music. But the main thing you're going there for is to meet. It's not really an atmosphere for a couple. So you go there and there's other men checking out your woman.
Other women checking out your man.
Right. And here you are. You drank a couple of sodas on the way. You need to go to the restroom. But you don't want to leave her outside by herself. You want to leave her out by herself because I seen that guy over there in that white shirt. Boy, he's been winking and he's been out flirting the whole time. So a club atmosphere really is not set up for a couple unless the couple's ready to argue and fight, because that's where it's headed. It's just not that good. Now, I would recommend finding people with like interests. You're married, newly married, find another married couple that go to plays, go to movies, go to, do your outings with friends with like interests like you. Me hanging out with my single friends may not be the best thing in my wife's head. And remember, we're one now. So I'm setting up argument to argue with myself. it's not hard. And then over the years, you've heard a lot of narrative. Oh, you're dead now that you're married. Oh, it's over. You're gonna be locked up and all. That's TV talk.
Mm-hmm. You're never gonna have sex again once you get married. That's
ridiculous. No, no. You make your marriage what you want it to be, but we're gonna try to help you avoid the potholes in the road so they can flow smooth. Because in a previous episode, I think my wife said over the 7 years we've been married, we may have had a somewhat argument or disagreement or whatever you want to call it twice in 7 years. Some people have 2 arguments in 2 days. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying
let me add a little context to that, because back when we were dating, we were the ones having arguments twice in 2 days. We broke up practically every weekend. Like, it took work to get where we are now. Our only point in telling you this is so that you'll know things can get better. It doesn't have to stay like, that arguing all the time. Go ahead.
And now that she mentions that, I'm thinking that I wish I would have had someone on the front end to tell me some of the things I'm sharing right now. Like, it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be that. It was a mindset that I needed to change of my own. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, well, how did y'all get from all that arguing to where you are now? That's a good question. It came to the realization at the end of an argument, just something simple, just this simple, to think, okay, do I really, really want to be with this person? Regardless of the argument and the static and all the stuff, you can work through anything. But you need to answer that question first. Do I really, really want to be with this person? And the answer was yes. I do. I don't want anybody else. So, okay, I answered the main question. Now, how do I get through all this turbulence? Well, for starters, we need to stop trying to change each other. And I'm going to offer that. And think about it in your relationship. When you have disagreements, a lot of times you are focused on what they did wrong and they're focused on what you did wrong. You focus on what they said, you focus on what you need to focus on is fixing yourself. What can I fix about myself that she may have a problem with, and actually fix it so that she don't have to complain about that no more and we can move on past it? Well, we got to the point where we decided, okay, I'm going to stop trying to fix you and just fix me. Because I don't know if you know it or not, I can find a million things for somebody else to fix, and somebody else can find a million things that you can fix about yourself. Or what's even worse, you need to just be like me. See, because I got it all together. See, if you thought like this and you act like this and you didn't go over here and you cooked it, all these things you could be doing to make my life better. No. Let's scratch that narrative. Find out what you can do. What can you bring to the table to make the relationship better? And have your spouse do the other thing. They'll do the same thing. And then before you know it, there's nothing to argue about. Not that we were, just dying to keep arguing, because we weren't. We're trying to figure out why are we arguing so much.
The argument starts because of one thing, and then his reaction to me saying that I'm upset about the one thing turns into me, I'm not even mad about the thing anymore. Now I'm mad about your reaction to the thing. And then we haven't spoken to each other in 3 days because I'm mad because you got mad that I was mad. It's just a vicious cycle that you have to break. And, I offer this in any problem that you're having in your relationship. You have to pray about that. If this is going to be your wife, your husband, you guys are starting a family, you guys are newly married, you have to pray and ask God for guidance on how to communicate with your spouse. You have to learn your spouse. You have to know, my spouse doesn't like me talking to him like he's my child. So I need to find a better way to talk to him. Because if we're arguing and I'm telling him, you should have did this, you need to pick up your socks, you need to pick up your clothes, you need to wash the dishes, I'm talking to him like his mama. It is clear to me that he does not like that. So I have to change that about myself. I have to change the way I communicate my issues with him. Babe, I've been at work all day. I'm so tired. Could you possibly wash the dishes for me before I get home? Sure. Because now I'm not talking to him like his mama. I'm talking to him like he's me. Because we are one.
Versus saying on the same conversation, oh, I'm on my way home. I had a hard day at work. And I bet the sink is full of dirty dishes that nobody chose to wash. You said the same thing. The same problem existed. The dishes need to be washed. It's about how you present it. So if you present it bad, you may get a bad reaction. Here's another thing to think about. You may present that to your spouse at the wrong time. This is all about learning your spouse. Now, you may want to be one of those people that, like me, I don't talk a whole lot once I first wake up. So if I just took a nap and I just woke up, I don't want you asking me, what do you think we should about this light? Should we trade this in? Should we sell this? Should we do you think we should buy this? Or how much do you think we need to? Don't ask me those questions when I first wake up, because my brain, my eyes are open, my brain may still be a little asleep there. But there's a better time to ask me, maybe in the morning when I'm at work and I'm already up and moving around. Okay, this is a better time to bring all that to me, and I can snap off answers like that. Little stuff like that is what we mean by learn your spouse. Learn them so that, you may go to your best friend and be like, all I asked was about the dishes. He almost bit my head off. Well, yeah, that was not the response you were looking for. But you yourself probably could have fixed that if you had learned that person and figured out, oh, it'll be a better time to ask that instead of right here when it popped into my head and you just blurted out. Just little stuff like that can make a relationship so much better.
And I'm going to add this. When you're having these conversations with your spouse, only because you brought this up, if you know your spouse is cranky in the morning and you wake up like you have already drank 10 cups of coffee, okay, you're going to learn that about your spouse. Maybe you guys didn't live together before you got married, but now that you're married, first 2 or 3 months, you're learning each other. You know that this person does not want to talk when they wake up. And on the flip side, he knows that she's going to wake up going a mile a minute. So you have to learn that even when you're trying to tell your spouse, hey, I don't want to talk right now, or hey, I need you to talk right now, there are certain lines you can't cross. I am big on respect. Respect goes a long way with me. So if you need to tell me, hey, you're talking too much in the morning, it's fine to tell me, but you have to tell me in a respectful way. You can't tell me, you can't wake up and look at me and tell me to shut up or, something like that. That's just, you don't talk to yourself like that. You have to learn and like I'm saying, talk to your spouse as if you're talking to yourself. If you're not going to call yourself out of your name, if you're not going to be rude to yourself, you shouldn't talk to your spouse that way. Talk to your spouse the way you want to be talked to, or as if you are speaking to yourself. It just helps so much your mode of communication, as opposed to you talking to them the way you talk to your friends or the way you talk to your homeboys. I hate it when I hear young couples, like especially the girl or the boy, saying bro. Like, that's not your bro. That is your mate, your spouse. That you have to learn to respect each other. Even when you're arguing, you have to be respectful. There are certain lines you can't cross because it's too hard to come back from. But that's a topic for another day. Our next topic for today is money. How do you deal with money as a newly married couple? And I'll let you go ahead and start on that.
This is one of the biggest downfalls in relationships, marriages, and I'm glad to be speaking on it because a lot of people are waiting to hear on it. How do we handle the money. These are, let me just put this out. This is something that, in my opinion, you need to discuss before you get married. Don't, a lot of people will find touchy subjects. Money is definitely a touchy subject.
Religion.
Right, and they won't discuss them. They'll walk the tightrope, walk around them, and just hope, when we get married, it'll figure itself out. It's okay to discuss money. I know a lot of people that hold money to a different regard, from the next person. Money is meant to be spent. They say if you hold on to it too tight, you may not lose any, but no more can come in there either. But here's the thing. Keeping with the theme of you and I are one. I'm not a fan of hiding money from my wife. I'm not a fan of, okay, yeah, we both work, but this is my money, that's your money. So, yeah, my wife likes to shop. Wives like to shop. Women like to shop. Men do too. And so, I can't sit here and say, well, if you hadn't been doing all that shopping, you wouldn't be broke. Yeah, I have some money here, but I'm not sharing it. Yeah, you'll learn today. You're going to do better with the money you had. Well, say that to yourself. You wouldn't take money and hide it from yourself. You wouldn't be hungry and say, well, I just can't pull myself to buy me something to eat today. Oh, this is still we are one. Now, do we need to discuss how much you spend on shopping for next time? If it's getting to be a problem, then yes. But again, learn that person, learn their habits. If you shop too much, guess what? We need to discuss your shopping. But we're still one. If I have a stash spot in the house, I'm not the only one that knows about it. The other me knows about it too. She knows exactly where it's at. So, we need to keep your spouse inside the loop, because this isn't my money, your money. This is our money. And please have the money talk with your spouse, because everybody likes to, keep that separate. Yeah, I love you. Yeah, I married you. I even had kids with you. Oh, this money over here, I'm not just ready to let it go like that just yet. And it doesn't make any better the narrative when you see on TV. Oh, you get half. Here go half. Leave half out the picture. This is a whole. Just like I can go and swipe the card to this bank account, so can my spouse to the same account. Now, there's nothing wrong with separating the money in a way that if there's money that needs to be for shopping or for gas or for food or whatever, it doesn't come out of the bill money, because, okay, yeah, y'all are one, but when you leave this house, it's actually two physical people. So while you may be paying your light bill with the last $300 in the bank, she may be buying groceries because she sees there's $300 in the bank. Well, guess what? Here comes a $35 charge. There's going to be an overdraft because there's a breakdown in communication. So to avoid pitfalls like that, I would recommend putting a certain amount of money for other things, for bills alone, so that money doesn't get disturbed when you're paying the bills, and you don't come up with well, you should have said something. Well, you knew we was out of milk. Yeah, but you didn't go get it. Okay.
Well, some of you know, some of you may not. I am a divorce attorney. So I'm going to tell you some advice that I would give to one of my clients. You need to have the talk about money prior to marriage. If your husband is rich and you are not, and you guys decide that you want to have a prenuptial agreement, I'm all for it. Because that's going to spell out how you're going to divide things in the end. But if you're one of those couples who you're not even thinking about divorce, you just want to be married, you still need to have the talk about money. You need to decide how you're going to do bank accounts. You need to decide if I'm going to have my separate account, you're going to have your separate account, but we're going to have a joint account that we both put money into, or we're just going to have one bank account and we're going to discuss all our purchases for the day so that there are no discrepancies like a $35 charge because I thought I could pay the light bill and you thought you could grocery shop. Those conversations need to be had. And I believe that problems in relationships about money come when you don't have those conversations. When you're dating and he shows up in his BMW with his Gucci shoes on and she got her Louboutins on with her Louis Vuitton purse and everybody think the other person got money. And then you get married and you realize that she spent all her money on Louboutins and Louis Vuitton, but her cell phone is about to get cut off. And her light bill is 2 months past due. And you have to come in and play Captain Save 'em because you guys didn't have the talk about money. You have to discuss these things prior to marriage to avoid having that problem in marriage. That is a big problem. That is a big reason couples get divorced, because of money. But it doesn't have to be if you guys just discuss it. Because ladies, I'm here to tell you, there are men who think that because they pay all the bills, that they get to run everything. And that's just not the case. Like, and you need to know that prior to going in the house with them. If you're down for it, then it won't be a problem. But if that's not how you want to live, then you need to have that talk with him. Don't just get, think you're on cloud nine because he said, oh, you don't have to pay any other bills. I'm paying for everything. Okay, what do you expect from me in return should be the conversation. Because there is going to be a quid pro quo. There's going to be a give and take in a marriage. So if he's paying all the bills and you're a stay-at-home wife and you take care of the kids and you drive the kids to school and you take them to the doctor and you do all the laundry and you do all the cooking, that's a job. Like, people get paid to be housekeepers and nannies. So you're doing it without a paycheck coming in. So you have to have the mindset that his money is my money. We're both bringing something to the household. I'm taking care of the house. I'm taking care of the children, and he's taking care of the finances. But this is all one. But you guys have to have that talk prior to getting married or early in your marriage, because those things can be deal breakers. And another talk that you should have prior to marriage is about children. How many children do you want to have? Do you even want to have children? Because I've been learning that this generation, they're not having as many kids as like my mom's generation may have had. So you may get into a marriage thinking, okay, I don't have any kids. He doesn't have any kids. Now we're married and we can just start trying to get pregnant. And then he drops a bomb on you and says, I don't want to have any kids. Or I have 3 kids from a previous relationship and I don't want to have any more. And you don't have any. But you guys just have to have those types of conversations prior to getting married so that you'll know if this is a deal breaker, that you don't have to, be angry with each other, but you can walk away without having to go through a divorce. Those conversations are just things that need to be discussed. Religion is another one. Like, if he's Muslim and you're Christian, you guys need to discuss that, because number one, you need to know how you're going to exercise your faith after the marriage. Like, what kind of church are we getting married in? On Sundays, when he's going to the mosque, I'm not even sure people go to the mosque on Sunday, but when he's going to the mosque and you're going to your church, you guys aren't going together. Then when you have children, how are your children, what religion are they going to be? Those conversations have to be have to be had prior to the marriage or early in the marriage so that you can, make informed decisions of how when you're planning your life, because this is you guys are going to be one, and you have to, move as one.
So a lot of these topics are really just tied into learning how to coexist. Those are definitely topics that need to be discussed and figured out, because you'll get into this relationship and it's things like that that can bring the relationship down. So nobody goes into a relationship thinking, oh, well, if it don't work out, I'll just get a divorce. Although that may be how society is shaping it, like, there's always a way out. That's not what you're going to be thinking when you're standing at the altar on your wedding day. So you need to be able to coexist. I've had friends tell me, single friends, they see me maybe clean up around the house, or I had one friend, once I was making the bed, he says, man, you make the bed up, I will make my... Now, he wasn't married. He said that's a job for her to do. And all I was thinking, I said, well, I sleep in the same bed. Why would that be something for her to do? But I don't know, maybe he didn't see it like that. But all these things that we've discussed really are wrapped up around being able to coexist. You need to be able to understand how she thinks. She needs to be able to understand how you think. These are all things that hopefully you will be able to learn prior to getting married. And there's going to be some you learn after. But these are the things that you look for when looking for a mate. Can we coexist mentally? That's a huge thing. You hear in before you get married, in marriage counseling, you need to be able to trust them. You need to be able to, what's another thing you need to be able to communicate? They always say that. But in my opinion, coexisting is huge on mentalities. Like, if you can't figure out how this person thinks, then you're going to be scratching your head wondering, like, man, how did I end up married to this person? They don't believe anything I believe in. When it comes to money, and I've heard some horror stories. I would share some with you, but I have friends, older friends, been married a long time, still hold money to a different regard. I can't imagine being married 15, 20 years and still hiding money from my wife, lying about how much money I actually have. Oh, she's going to want some. So, it's just money. But, I mean, when it comes to money, they'll tiptoe around it. Also, around the house, along the lines of coexist, learn your spouse. I know we've said it a lot of times, but I'm going to keep saying it. There may be things that your spouse just flat out doesn't care to do. I don't know if it's vacuuming the floor or dusting the tables, whatever it is. Learn that about them. Take care of it. And no one has to argue about it. That's the way coexisting works. You always hear opposites attract. Well, there are going to be things y'all are opposite on. She may not be a big laundry person. She may not be big on going to get the groceries. Fill in those gaps. Learn that person, and then you don't have to argue about it. It doesn't have to be an issue that you need to go and talk to your friends about, because we discussed this in a prior episode about friends. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but just remember this. I read a meme that said, don't tell your business to your friends, because 20% of them don't want to hear it, and the other 80% are glad that you have those problems anyway. It's just the way life is these days. No one's really wants to hear your bad news or give you good advice. They're just going to be like, hey, man, hey, you picked them. Like, just you picked them. So just keep those things in mind when it comes to coexist.
So Another thing we want to talk about is a blended family. When sometimes, this may not be your first marriage. There are gonna be couples who it may be one party's first marriage, it may be both parties' second or third or fourth marriage, but you still are newlywed. You still have this new marriage. Sometimes people get married older and they have children already. Even if it's your first marriage, you may have children already. I've seen a lot of couples who had their first baby and then got married. The baby was in the wedding. Whatever the case, sometimes you marry people who already have children. And starting a blended family is a very hard thing to do. It's hard, number one, for the children to be able to accept that their parents aren't going to be together anymore. Then it's going to be hard for them to accept that you have a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend. And then when you decide you're going to get married and you're all living in one house together, it's hard for your children and for your spouse to be able to accept that either there's another adult who I have to listen to, or there's another child that I have to take care of. It takes a special kind of person to be able to come into your life and love your children as if they're their own. But I'm not going to act like it's all, roses and candy, because it's a hard thing to do. I think the younger the children are, the better. I know a lot of women say, I don't want to date a man with young kids because that means he's still messing with his baby mama. If that's the type of man that you're thinking about marrying, you already are on the wrong foot. You're already messing with the wrong man. But a 2 to 3 year old child, to me, it's easier for them to adapt to a new parent in the household, somebody else to love them, because that's how you have to look at it. And I see, exes, baby mamas and baby daddies that are still bitter that you guys have broken up. They may try to turn your children against you, but the younger the child is, to me, the more they learn your spouse, so they can form their own opinion. When they come in as teenagers, it's a little different because their mom or dad is going to tell him, oh, she's no good or he's no good. I don't like them, so you shouldn't like them. I don't want them around you, blah, blah, blah. But when you're a teenager, it's hard for you to be as open-minded and learn, get to know the person on your own. But when they're younger, it's easier for the child themselves to form their own opinion. They might even tell their mom, hey, Miss Keisha is not that bad. Or Mr. Sam is not that bad. Not as bad as you try to make it seem. So anyway, having a blended family, it's a hard thing to do, but I advise you guys to pray about everything. When you're going into that situation, pray with your husband or fiance before you ever even meet the children. Just have God to be there with you, to guide and mold those relationships. Once the children are around you, make sure you're taking care of them as if they're your own. Make sure that if you're the parent and they're the step parent, as the parent, you make sure that these children are showing respect to your new mate. But also listen to your children, because sometimes, everybody doesn't mean you good. Sometimes children are the ones that can tell you, I don't like her or I don't like him. And they have good reason. They can see something that you don't see. So listen to your children. But remember, if you're married, you guys are one. Nobody is supposed to come in between you and your spouse. Now, I'm not saying if he's abusing your child or she is abusing your child, that means you're stuck with that person and you're not supposed to listen to your child. I'm saying, your children. Your children who are in blended families have a tendency to be a little bit manipulative. And when I say that, that's just the best word I can think of to describe. If I go to my dad's house and my mom didn't give me, I asked for some new shoes and she didn't buy them for me, and I go to my dad's house, I can go to my dad and be like, I just wanted these new shoes and my mom, she just wouldn't get them for me. And then dad goes to get them, not knowing that the reason mom didn't get them was because the child was doing whatever in school and, didn't deserve new shoes. But kids learn that. They learn to be manipulative when they're in blended families. So you and your spouse have to be as one. You have to be very cognizant of what your children are doing. You have to know your child and be able to explain to your spouse, hey, she's trying to get out of doing her homework, or she's trying to get out of whatever. So your spouse can learn them too. But you guys have to be on one page. I know sometimes as a step parent, you come in and you just want to be extra nice to the step kid. But then the parent is telling you, no, don't allow them to do that. Or I don't want them eating candy before dinner. And because you're the step parent, you're like, oh, here's a little piece of candy. No, you guys are one. You have to have the same mindset when it comes to dealing with your blended kids. I personally have been both. I've been the child who had step parents, and now I am a step parent. So I kind of look at it from both perspectives when it comes to my step kids. Of course, I love them as if they're my own, but I try to take on my husband's mindset when it comes to dealing with them. However he wants to parent them is the way I'll parent them. Of course, I'm going to offer a nurturing, motherly parenting style as opposed to what he's offering. But if he's telling me I'm using tough love right now, then I have to stand behind him. I can't go behind his back and do something different. We have to be on one accord when dealing with that.
So, before we wrap up, we want to go to Ask the Amoses. We have a writer who sent in an issue that she needed maybe some advice on, and my wife is going to read it now, and we will discuss how we feel about it.
And I just want to add this. If you guys want to or have a question you want to ask about relationships or parenting, and you want some advice, this segment is called Ask the Amoses. You can email us at getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com, and you have a chance for your question to be read on the podcast and answered by us. I won't read anyone's name, so everything will pretty much be anonymous. And this question says, and it's long, so bear with us. My husband and I have been together for 16 years. We were married last year and just celebrated our first anniversary. At the beginning of our relationship, my husband didn't intermingle his relationship with his daughter and his relationship with me on purpose. He felt very strongly that he would not bring another woman into his daughter's life until he felt that this was the woman with whom he was going to spend the rest of his life with. I respected that. When she graduated from high school and went on to undergrad the following year, I went away to law school in another state. She graduated and came back home, and then I graduated and came back home, and that's when, for the first time, my husband and I lived together. So essentially, his now 29-year-old daughter has never had to share her dad with anyone. That was in 2016. Fast forward to 2021, and the relationship between his daughter and I is very strained. I've tried to create situations in which we could both experience relationship building, have been very generous and thoughtful toward her, but I'm always faced with intentional exclusion and passive aggressiveness. When I talk to my husband about this, he becomes very angry. Unfortunately, this puts me in a very bad place emotionally and is very stressful. I often pray that one day she'll realize that I love her father. I've told her as much. I'm not going anywhere. But over the last several years, her father has experienced extreme success, which has pushed us into a socioeconomic living condition that's very different from hers. And she's still finding her way, and definitely her mother's. I know that the daughter reports back to the mother and that the mother fills her head with hurtful and angry words, and it does not help the relationship between the daughter and I. I have to talk to my husband. I've prayed with my husband. I've prayed with my husband that his daughter can see that I genuinely want to have a loving relationship with her, but because of the passive aggressive behavior and the intentional exclusion and the hurtfulness, it makes it very difficult to be accepting. What are y'all's thoughts on this scenario?
Shall I go first?
Yes, please. Go
Okay.
first.
So, to me, this is not hard. This is not hard to figure out. The father, husband, is the common denominator here. He's the one person that everybody has something in common with. He's the person that has to fix this. We said earlier in this episode that nothing should come between you and your wife, not even your 29-year-old daughter. So whether he brings together the daughter and the new wife and says, hey, enough is enough, let everybody air out how you feel. But the bottom line is, he needs to help his daughter understand what's going on here. Yeah, you're saying, oh, I've never had to share my dad. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, but there's a but there. He is now remarried. Now, he's chosen to get married. So, if clearly this is something that could have been discussed prior to, and it probably wasn't. Or if it was kind of blown over. We go through things in relationships where if you're on the front end and you're trying to make it all good, you'll say anything that other person wants to hear just to keep the peace and not dealing with it. And then later on, it rises again. It was never dealt with, and it's still a problem. Well, that husband needs to deal with that problem. He can fix it. If you're the man, be the man. And I mean be the man all the time. Not just when it's convenient for you, and then when it's not, then no, I'm going to go take a nap. No. Here's a problem with two people that you love. You're the man, deal with it. You can fix this easily. But you're going to have to communicate with both of them. And it may be easier to do it with everybody in the room, but that's not the only way to do it. But the daughter needs to understand that you've moved on. And I don't know if she's getting negative feedback from the first wife, which is her mom. But those things happen all the time. I've heard baby mamas badmouth the dad all the time, and even more so once he's decided to move on. It happens. No one can control what's being said over there. So he needs to just be who he is, and all that stuff that other wife is saying will just fall like water under the bridge. If it's not true, then eventually, you won't have to deal with it. But this thing here, he needs to cater to his wife's feelings, her discontent. She's depressed about it, hurt enough to write into us. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's his take on it. He needs to deal with it.
In my perspective, because I've thought about it from, like I said, both sides. I've been the stepchild with, I've had step parents, and now I am a step parent. The first thing, one of the last things she said was that she prayed about it, prayed with her husband, and I advise you to continue to do so. Continue to pray with your husband about it. But as my husband said, your husband is going to have to be the one to foster that relationship. Your husband is going to have to be the one to tell his daughter, look, this is my wife. We've been together all these years. Yes, we're newly married, but she is a part of my life and she's not going anywhere. If you want me to be around, she's going to be with me. And he can have that talk with his ex too. I mean, I really feel like sometimes people just need to be put in their place. You can't have your ex running around trying to turn your children against you and your new relationship without, being able to say, hey, this is what it's going to be. Nobody's going to disrespect her, and that's just what it is. So I too also believe that your husband will have to be the one to step up and foster that relationship. Of course, always be open to his daughter. You can build, it's fine that you're trying to do things to build a relationship with her, but she's grown. She's grown. So she shouldn't even be a hot topic in you guys' marriage or in your life. Because of the fact that she's grown. She should be trying to get her own, marriage and family going. But I do understand how daughters are about their dads. I was a daddy's girl, so I get it. I think my dad's first girlfriend, after he and my mom divorced, I liked her before I knew she was his girlfriend. Once I found out she was his girlfriend, I didn't like her anymore. And then my dad pulled me aside and told me, number one, stop being disrespectful to her, and that she's gonna be around. He pretty much flat out told me there was nothing I could do. I was 7. I mean, what was I gonna do? And so I learned to be respectful, and I learned to love her, not just like her, but I loved her. And so it's gonna take your husband to step up and make that relationship work, but always pray about it. I know you writing in, you kind of sounded, I'm not going to say desperate, but you sounded like you really wanted some feedback, and I just want you to be encouraged that no problem is too big for God. So continue to pray about it, continue to go to him with your issues, and speak to him as if you've already gotten the answer that you were looking for. Speak to him as if you're already on good terms with his daughter. And hopefully one day you'll also be on good terms with the ex, because just like you're not going anywhere, his daughter isn't going anywhere, and she's going to grow up and have kids of her own. You guys are going to be grandparents together. Like, you're going to be around these people as long as you're married to this man. So you just have to make the most of it and pray. And whenever she comes around, I'd pray with her too. So, speaking of praying, I just want to speak blessings over your life. I want to pray for you and your husband, for your marriage, for your stepdaughter, that relationship is built on solid ground, that you guys have a loving marriage, that you're able to communicate with each other about these sorts of things. And remember, you have to learn how to talk to your husband. I remember you said he got angry when you brought it up. Think about the time you're saying what you're saying and how you're saying what you're saying, and see if you can bring it to him in a different way. Explain it to him in a different way. Even if you use like a hypothetical situation, and then let him see that hypothetical situation is really you guys' situation. But I pray that you find a way to communicate with your husband, and that you guys build a strong marriage, and that his daughter comes around, and that you guys are able to be a loving family. And so that is today's episode. You got anything else you wanted to say?
We're glad that all of you have joined us for our premiere episode. YouTube, podcasters, Spotify. We're grateful for you guys. I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Mr. Top Choice Lending. Keep doing what you're doing. If you have financial needs as far as buying a home or property, anything real estate related, Top Choice Lending is the guy. He will get it done.
Ken at Top Choice Lending. Thank you guys for participating in today's episode. I hope that our testimony and our perspective will be helpful to you guys. And again, if you want your question answered, go to getaloveligemindepodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram, Get a Love Like Mine Podcast. And on Twitter, we're Get Love Like Mine. But I don't really post on Twitter. So Instagram and Facebook, make sure you're following us. And thank you guys.
Thank you.